Hello, everybody, and welcome to Co-Creation Station. This is the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing spiritual magic, the mind-body spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
Mm. My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach and I'm in San Diego, California.
We want to thank you so much for listening or watching or both, whatever you're doing, to join us today. And we want to let you know at the top of the episode that we often mention the names Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks. If this is your first time tuning into our podcast and you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can search for Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks right here on YouTube if you're watching us here, or on your favorite web browser. You can also find out more about them on their own website at abraham-hicks.com. We had to add that at some point because we talk about Abraham so much on this podcast. We want to make sure that everybody knows what the heck we're talking about. Each week we start our discussion here on Co-Creation Station from a different jumping off point. And as often happens, Stephanie and I have 30 minutes of what we call friend time, which longtime listeners will be very familiar with, or at least hearing about it, in the 30 minutes on Zoom before we start recording the episode. And today on Friend Time, when Stephanie asked me to tell her something good, I told her about something that I had done, and as often happens in Friend Time, you said, "That's our topic for today." And I was like, all right, then I'll stop talking about it so that I can
Inspired action. She said
yeah.
inspired action. I love,
Do you
what'd you
want
say?
do you want to set it up and just sort of explain like how, because that's something I learned primarily from listening to Abraham and Esther channeling Abraham, like, but do you want to give like a brief
No,
overview?
you go for it. No, you go for it. I was just wanting to repeat what you said in friend time, but I didn't remember
Okay.
exactly what you said.
So inspired action is, I mean, I think it's helpful to think about the way a lot of us tend to think about action, which is we're going to do action as the way that we are going to wrangle a situation and take control of it and get the results we want in our lives all by ourselves alone just by doing the action. And often that is a frustrating, aggravating, difficult, challenging process that sometimes does not even yield the results we want. And one of the things I learned from Abraham is it's much better to flow with things and not be as like, I'm going to wrestle it, make it happen. I'm going to take action.
Or
Um,
it can be, I don't want to take that action. I don't want to do
yeah,
that thing I have to
yeah,
do or need to do. It can be that, or just
yeah.
like dreaded.
So if you're trying to bring something new into your life, which can be anything, it can be a new partner, it can be earning more money, it can be a new job, it can be a new home that you want to move to. Um, the better way, typically, every situation is different, of course, but the better way typically is to sort of tune in to your higher self, however you imagine that, your connection to the great mystery that we are a part of, and see what you're led to do for action. Because so often, like the answer that comes back to that of like, okay, I want this new car. What do I need to do for actions today to make that happen? A lot of times the answer is you don't have to do anything specific in regards to the car today. You just have to be happy and, just think good thoughts and get good feelings flowing through you, and the car will come at the appropriate time in the future. Um, so I was talking specifically, the story that you, Stephanie, wanted me to tell our listeners and viewers is that for a while now, so I play Dungeons and Dragons, which again, longtime listeners will be very familiar with now. Um, and I'm actually, I was just telling a group of people yesterday that I am playing in 3 games a week, which is nuts. I play on 1 game on Thursday night and 2 on Saturday. And then I run a game, or I'm the dungeon master, if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons lingo, on a Tuesday night in-person game that we play at a gaming store in Burbank, California. And we have been thinking, the group that I run on Tuesday night, we've been thinking about live streaming our show on Twitch, which a lot of, or our game turning our game into a show for other people, which a lot of Dungeons and Dragons groups around the world are now doing, where you just sort of you take digital cameras and you film you playing, and it goes out live and whatever. Um, it seems like at the moment that's going to be a little more. There's going to be a little more to that than we thought, so it won't happen as soon as we thought it might happen. But I just, after getting back into Dungeons and Dragons and playing it for so long now, since the beginning of the pandemic, pretty much, I just have lots of thoughts, kind of like this. You and I talked before this podcast. You and I talked about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, for such a long time. We were talking about it in our friend time during the pandemic, and eventually, it's like we should share this with people. This is good stuff, you know. And I kind of have that feeling about my D&D work as a player and as a dungeon master. It's like I have thoughts that I want to share with people who play D&D and are interested into it. So uh, sorry, I have something going on my Zoom screen here. Oh, okay. Okay. Um, but anyway, so I thought I would start. I had this sort of idea that I wanted to start a YouTube channel where I talk about Dungeons and Dragons stuff. But I was facing a lot of the fears. I think anytime somebody wants to do something like that, it's like my brain was filled with like, oh my God, I'll have to do this and I'll have to do this and it'll be hard and it'll be difficult and it'll be challenging. Like part of it will be fun, part of it will be enjoyable, but there'll be all this stuff. And what if nobody watches? And what if nobody cares? And what if I do it for nothing? And
The
then.
outcome, right? I just learned something about the outcome thing that helped me release some of that chatter
Yeah,
that was stopping me from taking actions on certain things.
yeah. So, but the thing that, I mean, partly because you and I talk about this a lot, but also because I read about it in various places. I get a lot of Instagram, affirmations coming at me from Instagram. I have an affirmations app on my phone that, tells me good stuff to remember and put into practice.
What's that one?
What's that?
What app is that one that you're talking about?
I forget what the name of it is. Oh, it's called I Am, I think.
Oh, cool.
The letter I space and
Yeah, I'll have
AM.
to
Yeah.
check it out.
It's been really good. It just sort of sends you affirmation. You can set how many affirmations you want per day. It can be one per day or two per
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But it's been really good. But one thing that the positive thoughts that kind of flashed through my mind as I was thinking all these negative thoughts about like what I
Yeah.
want was just start. Just start.
Mm.
Just begin. And trust that if you begin something that you're inspired to do, and I was very inspired to do this, that then you don't have to know all the next steps of action that you will have to do ever for this thing. It's like take it one step at a time.
And that's the thing that I think stops a lot of us.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So it's sort of like take one action. Don't overanalyze it. Don't get perfectionist about it. Don't try to wrestle the world with this one action. Just start. Have a gentle beginning. Be gentle on yourself. It's always scary. It's usually scary to start something new. It's often scary to start something new where you're going to show yourself to the world, whether it's on a
Visibility. Yeah.
yeah. So I did that, and I made what I thought by the end of it, honestly, was a super crappy video.
Did you really?
Well,
So your judgment came in? Your
oh, for sure.
your inner critic just
Oh,
beat you the
so
heck up?
much. So
Oh, okay.
because one thing, this may be neither here nor there, but one thing about the technology we have that is so incredible today and that allows us to do this, like it's pretty amazing that you and I, who are not super, like we're not video producers, we're not computer experts. I mean, we're both somewhat tech savvy, but we're certainly not like digital creators by the standard definition. I mean, the great thing is you have access to all these things like Zoom and YouTube and Twitch and all these things, but it's also like if you go on any of these platforms, I mean, there's people that do podcasts like this and they have super expensive microphones and they have super expensive
I
lights.
do like the way those expensive microphones look. It's very professional
Yes,
looking. I'm like, ooh, you have something similar.
and some of them are in studios or they have a particular place in their apartment where they film their videos and they have this elaborate background that perfectly echoes what the
Yes.
So I mean, I think that feeds some of my judgment because I'm like, oh, the cool thing is I can just press record. I know I can go on Zoom, press record.
Yeah.
Zoom, sends me the video afterwards. I can just upload it to YouTube. It's easy. But it's also like, oh, but I don't have the pricey lights and I don't have the pricey microphone set up and I don't have this and that. So one thing I did was, so I did it on Zoom just by myself as a one person Zoom meeting. And I put as my virtual background the map of the fictional world that I've created.
Oh, awesome. I
And the
like that.
problem that I didn't understand was when I went through the process of recording it on Zoom with the virtual background and
Mm.
then Zoom creating the recording and then uploading that to YouTube, it was almost like the old days when you're recording a record to a cassette tape and then you take your sister's cassette tape and you record it to another cassette tape and like by the time you get to that the quality is not that great. So that kind of happened like when I got the video from Zoom. I mean, God bless Zoom for making it easy to just record a video.
Yeah.
But when I got the video from Zoom, I was like, oh, I should not have done the virtual background. That was a mistake. And then not only did I catch myself saying a lot during the video, it was about a half an hour long, but I also got insecure about it in the middle of the video and started talking to the camera about how I was insecure about how many ums I was saying, which I would have taken back if I could.
Uh,
But the thing was, by the end of it, what I was pleased about was a couple of things. Number one was I did it. And I'm glad that at least today I have the muscle of like, you know, do it, finish it, put it up. You know what I mean? Because that's the other thing is like I can make the video and then be like, oh, that was terrible. I'm never showing it to anybody. I'm never even going to tell anybody I did this. Nobody knows yet, so I can still back out of this. But yeah, but there's that Goethe quote about like once you take bold action, like the universe marshals forces unseen and things you didn't even know you could get, and to help you. And I'm a big believer in that. So yeah, so I finished the video. I thought it was pretty crappy, but it's also like I was like, oh, but I can improve that. I mean, I know I can take away the
yeah.
virtual background.
Sure.
I can work on my I can, and
Yeah.
the other thing was it was kind of all over the place. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to talk about. I knew I was going to talk about D&D.
We have no problems filling up time.
This is a true fact. And again, our listeners and viewers.
Uh,
But anyway, but I finished it. I posted it. I think this is the thing. I'm like, Google and technology. I'm doing my best to keep up with it, but oh my gosh, I'm not even sure. I think I did create a new YouTube channel, but it's just the way Google combines all your accounts now. It's just sort of.
oh, right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, but I put it up online,
Okay,
and
so I'm going to pause you here
yes, yeah,
because when you were telling me your story, I'm like, and you said, and they say, take inspired action. And I was like, that's what we're going to talk about today, inspired action. So inspired action, I heard Wayne Dyer years ago say, inspired stands for in spirit.
mm,
So inspired. So that was like your higher self, your inner being, whatever we want to call it, infused you with energy and a thought to do something. And let me tell you, when there's inspired action, nothing can stop you.
mm,
It's like, there's no willpower.
yeah,
There's no making something. There's no have to. It's like, I want to do it. That's a very different energy than I got this thing I got to do. How am I going to do it? I don't want to do it. So inspired action, we want to take those. They're the
yeah,
best.
yep, yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, I think the idea to make the video, I was inspired to do that. The only thing I had to navigate was just all the like mental blocks that my old programming and stuff tried to put my way. But when I was making the video in the middle of it, I mean, other than my little insecurity about my ums, I was like, yeah, man, like it's just becoming more and more clear. And I think people like you who know me personally, it's just becoming more and more clear. Like I freaking love Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, and all of our listeners know that too. I mean, when you talk about it, you light up.
Yeah.
I can hear a lit person, their voice.
Yeah.
Like I can hear that. I can
Yeah.
hear when and I think our listeners are getting it now, like what resistance sounds like
Yeah.
and
Oh,
what
especially with me. Like I like
and what joy or flow joy and flow, any of allowing sounds like.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to tell when I have resistance to something because I talk about it like, "Ah, rah, rah," like literally you can hear the resistance like physically in my
Well, we
throat.
all do that, right? Like we all do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love when you catch me because I don't have a lot of people in my life who who'll call me on it, but
Yeah.
multiple times you'll do it. They're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like my coach Stephanie would say
Yeah.
that. Like, what? And it's cool because then it stops me dead in my tracks. I'm like, and I start to laugh, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. Because I have resistance too. We all do. And with
Yeah.
some things we do and some things we don't. But with those things, it comes so natural. It's just
Mhm.
like a knee-jerk reaction that those neural pathways are so used to in a particular topic.
Mhm.
We've talked about dating on here. We both have a lot of resistance with that one.
Yes.
But then with, so many other things we don't. And with Dungeons and Dragons, you had for a long time, right? How many years did you say that you didn't play?
Oh,
20?
over 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of resistance there in those years. And then for probably multiple reasons, it started to melt away.
Yeah.
And then you started to would you say that you had inspired action back then when you did
I
your
mean, that's
first?
exactly how I got back into it. Yeah. No, and it's funny because I think I've talked about this on a previous episode at some point, but there was one day where I mean, I was so out of it that I didn't realize that Dungeons and Dragons had become so popular that there were now Dungeons and Dragons kind of stores. I mean, they sell other games like it too, but like there are stores all over the United States now that are like it's basically a D&D store, and they're successful and they're doing well. Back when I was first into it, there were stores like that, but it wasn't super popular. So like these stores would pop up, they'd be in business for 6 months, and then you'd see them go out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like especially here in Los Angeles, there's gaming stores all over the city, and most of them are thriving.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I started playing at, they've expanded. Recently, they added on a whole addition to their
Oh
building.
my gosh, congratulations to them.
They also now feel like they have to move to a bigger space because they even with the addition they don't have the space. But yeah, I remember there was one day where I found. I mean, I don't remember exactly how it transpired, but I found out about that store, the one that I started playing at in Burbank, Geeky Teas and Games, is what it's called. And like it was on a, I will never forget this. It was on a Sunday, and it was pretty late in the afternoon. It was like 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon. But I found their website and I looked at their store hours. I saw how close it was to me. It's literally like a 12-minute drive, which in Los Angeles is like a 30-second drive anywhere else. um, and I saw that they were open till like pretty late. It was like 10 at night or something like that. And I was like, I'm going. And I literally like jumped in my car, and that was like inspired action.
I
It
was
was
gonna say that was definitely inspired
how
action.
close it was to me, and that it was open, and it was a
Well,
weekend day.
that you were infused
Yeah,
with this
yeah,
energy of to go. I'm gonna go.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
And I had seen the other thing is I had seen on the website that they hosted what's called the D&D Adventurers League, which is an official. It's almost like a national bowling league kind of thing where you can go play D&D at D&D stores in this sort of official capacity, and anybody can play. And I had just seen it. I read something about it, but I didn't know exactly how it worked. And so I got to the store. I was blown away because the store is amazing, still is, and had all this cool D&D stuff everywhere. And then I bought something, and I asked at the counter about the Adventures League, and they explained to me how it worked. And I think it was literally like, I think it was the because the Adventures League night was Tuesday night, so it was 2 nights later. I went and played my first game
Mm.
in person after because the pandemic had just sort of ended, and then the week after that. But that night, I found out they were super low on dungeon masters. Like they had a huge wave of players who were new and wanted to play, but they didn't have enough dungeon masters. So I volunteered to dungeon master the very next week, I think. And that was the start of my game that literally has been going for a year and a half on every Tuesday
Mm.
night nonstop.
Mm.
So
So here's when I was talking earlier about oftentimes when I, have my to-do list or, actions with my business, I'll think of the action and then I'll think of the possible outcome.
Mhm.
And sometimes that'll stop me because I'm like, yeah, but what if that doesn't happen? And I get into a lot of fear and self-centeredness. And so this was something that a associate had shared with me the other day that I really loved. It's none of my business what happens. My business is to take the action. Taking the action is the outcome.
Yeah.
And that just like really like took away the fear of taking the action, because then I was caught up in the outcome. Well,
Mhm.
this is what I want, but what if it doesn't happen? Kind of a thing that keeps me from taking the action. Kind of like what you were saying earlier about, yeah, but what if nobody likes it? And, how am I, but, that. So I love that. It's none of my business what happens. My business is to take the action. Taking the action is the outcome.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm able to take action with reading that. I was like, yeah, I could take an action.
Yeah.
The outcome is none of my business. Taking the action is the outcome. That just like, oh my, talk about softening resistance. That did it for me.
Yeah. So before, I mean, I could talk around this forever, but before we run out of time here, I want to. So what happened in friend time was I told you about this comment I got on this YouTube video from one person, and I'll read it for you. It's from this guy Arthonius, um, and so he says, "Hey, the YouTube algorithm recommended your video to me. It seems like I'm either your first or second view. I want to commend you on your courage to just film something heartfelt and throw it out on the internet. I had a good time! Exclamation point. I'm subscribing to you to see where this goes! Exclamation point. I'd be interested to hear about your thoughts about world building, dungeon master skills, talking about writing and storytelling for D&D, etc. However, I do think a more focused style with maybe a loose script might make me come back to your site more often. I came to the video expecting your thoughts on your dungeon master skills and what happened in your own words. I guess I said this in the middle of the video. Your ADD took over and you meandered a lot. Smiley face. I would recommend that you pick a theme for your video, write down the main points you want to get across, and then make a video with just that specific theme. Those are just my 2 cents. Smiley face. 2 more cents on things you seem to be you talked about being uncertain about in the video. Um, you can say a lot or not. It's not particularly annoying to me either way. But when you break the viewer's train of thought, often to pull attention to it and talk about it, that is annoying. Smiley face. I love how he puts the smiley face with his
He's
just
amazing.
helpful feedback here. Don't worry about somehow pressuring people if you're just reminding them to like and subscribe. Oh, because I guess I talked about that about like how I don't. So every YouTuber in the world says like and subscribe, and smash that like button, and I said something about how I feel uncomfortable. He says, don't worry about you know accidentally pressuring people if you're just reminding them to like and subscribe. Every YouTuber says that because it helps their channel grow. Just be brief with it and don't worry about it. And good luck to you. I'm excited about your next video! Exclamation point. And so how we got on inspired action about that is like I already had some thoughts when I put the first video up just on my own of like, oh, I know I kind of got his point about don't talk about the ums. But I had some thoughts, but like this is to me this is a clear message from the universe, higher power, whatever you want to talk about, of like, good job, Collin, for making that video. You followed your inspiration, you're on the right track. Make another video, make a few tweaks, and keep going.
Yeah,
And I just feel like
absolutely.
you and I were joking. I asked you, like, do you think I should make another video? And it's like that. It's like if we really act on our inspiration and we just follow that inner guidance instead of all the junk in our minds, I'm like,
Yeah.
like it can be so clear. I feel like there's a neon flashing sign of like, make another video about D&D.
Yeah, I know. What does Kelly say? The indicators. What is she talking about? The road sign along the way, the billboard or something like
Yeah,
that. She always
yeah,
talks
like
about
make
that.
it a
Yeah,
giant billboard for me.
yeah,
Like, which I
yeah,
think you
yeah,
have an example one time of like
yeah.
you were wondering about something, you literally had a giant billboard that said relax. Was that it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
relax.
was relaxed three
What's that
times and
higher
then
power?
24 hours.
Roll up to the billboard, relax.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like who knew that this, and that's the thing too about. taking the action if it's inspired is that because I think we always think like, oh, I might do it and then nothing will happen and then what, and it's like I think like it's really good to just trust that like if you just stay in that inspiration and act on it, like you'll get the signs along the way you need to tell you kind of what to do. Like with our podcast,
Well,
sorry,
like, you know
go ahead.
what? I think the inspired action
Hmm.
is that's enough. Like,
Hmm.
if I'm inspired to do it, I'm really in the moment. I don't really even care about the outcome.
Right,
I'm
right,
just
right.
inspired to do it.
It's just
Like this guy's comment to you is just icing on the cake. Like,
I
it's just like, and it's really like higher power just saying like you said, spot on, Colin, keep doing this. You're right on track. Which is great, right? It's so
Yep,
awesome. But that to me, like when I get inspired action, I don't really give a F about the outcome. I
yep,
just want to do it and I don't really care,
yep,
period.
yep. No,
And then the outcomes are like, I mean, it's
yeah,
sweet. It's super
they're
sweet. Like,
crazy,
I'm not
right?
gonna, yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. Like I had a blast making that video. Um, so I mean that's the other thing is like I think sometimes I can get so, and especially in the world we live in where um, like I turned over the partly because of my schedule, but also because of other reasons, I turned over to you, like uploading the videos and, I download them from Zoom and, you upload them to YouTube, which means you see the view count of the podcast, how many people listen to this episode in podcast form, how many people have watched on YouTube more than I do. And because I can just get so tangled up on that of like, oh, why did we have this many viewers this week? This episode when we had less. Like, why? What are we doing wrong? And it's like it's just better for me when I don't think about that stuff because that's not helpful. That's not that just engages all that old, program thinking of
Bean counting, man. Like, who gives
focusing on
a
the
F?
results as the
Yeah.
point instead of focusing on the joy of what you're doing being the
And
point.
who is it? Gary, what's his name? Gary
Gary
V.
Vee. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you turned me on to him because he talked, a lot of people about like how and he's like, this is the long game.
Yeah.
Just be you, enjoy
Yeah.
yourself, be of service. It's the long game.
And I
And
think that's sorry, go ahead.
we talked about this, I think, in our previous episode about, oh no, I was hiking with Sam the other day and we were talking about it. And it's like, a lot of us think like, these actors per se, or whomever becomes very successful and we think like it's an overnight success. And I think you've mentioned this too, how the media will describe it as that because
Yeah.
it's more intriguing. But then you really talk to them and you find out, and I don't know if it was Samuel L. or one of those actors, but they were in the game for like 20 years and then he became famous.
Yeah.
And so long game. Do
Yeah.
it because we love it. Do it because we get something out of it, enjoy it, whatever our reasons are. And then if the other stuff happens, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
we all want it, hoping for it. At the same time, it is that day to day, what am I getting up for?
Yep.
In the
Absolutely.
moments, like you and I laugh a ship ton. We love when someone comments, we've got our peeps who comment. We love you all. And
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, great discussion. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and listening or watching or both,
Take
whichever.
that inspired action, baby.
Yes. Remember that at this point in December of 2023, when we're recording this, we are still posting a brand new episode for you every single Monday morning. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast. All our social media links and our email address are down the doobly doo in the YouTube video below. Also, we now have a Patreon that you can subscribe to at different levels monetarily. If you would like to help financially support the podcast, you can go ahead and do that. And we would be super, 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 super grateful to you if you want to do that there. And our Patreon link to join is down in the description there. We want to wish you a happy and abundant week ahead, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Happy holidays.